up and landing 13 left if that's available.
Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, Palm Springs altimeter is 2985, radar contact about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, you're requesting straight in for 13.
That's available.
Remember, departure of Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, make straight in runway 13 left and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land, runway 3 left, Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, thanks.
Palm Springs clearance, Pilatus 4658 is type PC final slam call, request clearance to Vegas S file.
Pilatus 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon, unable to give you S file, and I'll be full route standby. Pilatus 4658 is cleared to the Las Vegas airport. VFI Cathedral 1 departure procedure to Palm Springs, Victor 370 to 29 Palms, Victor 538, Cresso, join the Cresso 3 arrival. Maintain 7,000, expect flight level 2405 minutes after departure, departure frequency 126.7, squawk 6316.
Palm Springs, Victor 37029, Palms, Victor 538, Presso 3, initially Jackson, as expected, cruiser F25, departure 167, Sparks 6
Pause 4658, free baggage correct. Tango D Mike, taxi to the ground via Echo and frequency.
Taxiing to the ramp via Echo, remaining on this frequency, Papa Hotel Tango India Mike.
Ontario Tower, Cessna 237 Charlie Alpha, approximately 4 miles to the west, inbound to land.
Number 237 Charlie Alpha, roger, inner left, traffic, left downwind runway 26 left, report base.
Enter left downwind 26 left, report your base, 237 Charlie Alpha.
Charlie Tower, United 242, on the visual for 20 right, returning for right base departure.
United 242 Jolly Tower, runway 20 right, clear to land, wind 170.3.
Clear to land, 20 right, United.
Near 520 Yankee Kilo, Palomar Tower, runway 24, clear to land, wind 210 at 1. Number 237 Charlie Alpha, runway 26 left, clear to land.
Left clear to land, 7 Charlie Alpha.
Palm Springs ramp Pilatus 4658, east traffic to weather, going for taxi.
Pilatus 4658, Palm Springs ground, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Trail right via Echo Bravo 465.
Riverside Tower, good morning, November 2903 Alpha with you on the island.
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside Tower, good afternoon. Runway 900 clear low approach, report miss.
November 2903 Alpha, low approach, runway 9, next report.
Palm Springs Tower, Pilatus 4658, ready to go trail right at Bravo.
Pause 4658, Palm Springs Tower, runway 31 right, clear for takeoff.
Shift Echo trail right Pilatus 465.
Here's our Yankee Kilo, roger, taxi into the ramp via Alpha. Pilatus 4658, contact for departure.
Contact departure 465.
Cessna 7 Charlie Alpha is clearly active, taxi to the GA parking base.
Number 7 Charlie Alpha, and on this frequency taxi to the South Ramp via Sierra.
South Ramp via Sierra with you, 7 Charlie Alpha, thanks.
Number 03 Alpha, confirm going around or going missed?
November 2903 Alpha going missing.
Number 03 Alpha, roger, execute the published missed approach procedure.
Flying published mid-approach procedure, November 2903.
Piper 2903 Alpha, contact SoCal departure.
Contact departure, 03 Alpha.
Number 03 Alpha, departure frequency 135.4.
135.4 for departure, November 2903.
Ontario Tower, November 516 Delta Mike, inbound ILS 26 left. Or 516 Delta Mike, Ontario Tower. Good afternoon, Ontario. Wind is calm. Runway 26 left, clear to land.
26 left, clear to land, 6 Delta Mike. Ontario Tower, November 36. Correction, 516 Delta Mike, clear the active uniform, taxiing to the South Apron.
Number 6 Delta Mike, roger, taxi on South Ramp via Sierra, remain on this frequency.
Via Sierra on this frequency, 6 Delta.
Riverside Tower,
Alpha, Riverside Tower, runway 27, clear to land.
Clear to land on runway 27, 03 Alpha. Riverside Clouds, November 2903 Alpha, in Alpha request taxi to the transient parking.
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside ground. In the future, don't switch to the ground frequency unless you're told to do so. Should stay with tower, exiting the runway all the way to the whole stroke point. Stay on this frequency for now, taxi to the ramp via Alpha.
Taxi to ramp via Alpha. Okay.
Runway clear. Runway clearance. November 6th. Charlie Mike Cherokee. I would like to attempt the I-4 rating today.
Cherry 76 Charlie Mike Jolly clearance. Good evening. Good luck on the I-4 destination. Will be, let's go, Kilo, Oscar X-ray, Romeo.
That's Kilo, Oscar, X-ray, Romeo. 620 Mike.
Yes, sir. Good luck.
I'm going to sign off and collect some information for this destination. I'll sign back in. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Just report when you're back with the I-4. And how long do you think it'll be? It's not going to be more than an hour, is it?
No. I have to file and get some charts and plates.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'll still be here, so it shouldn't be a problem. And we'll look for your flight plan to come through. Which your next time.
Las Vegas Tower Plus 465 visual 1 on the right 4500.
Plus 4658 Las Vegas Tower, runway 19 right, clear to land, wind 1807.
Clear to land 1 on right 465.
Plus 658 exit right, taxi into the ramp via hotel. Remain on this frequency today.
Exit right, right via hotel, right frequency 58 465.
Ground number 95 for Whiskey Alpha's Hyper Comanche PH4 slide Alpha. Like taxi to the active VFR east departure with weather.
Calling Long Beach ground, need you to verify your call sign, please.
Sorry about that. 916 Whiskey Alpha, November 916 Whiskey Alpha.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach ground, roger. And just confirm VFR eastbound.
Eastbound and east ramp just south of runway 25.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, roger, runway 26 right, taxi via Kilo.
Okay, 25 right via Kilo, 916 Whiskey Alpha. Long Beach Tower, November 916 Whiskey Alpha, holding short of 25 right Kilo, ready for departure via parking east.
Ground 16 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach Tower, runway 25 right, clear for takeoff, right down departure route.
Clear for takeoff 25 right, right down departure 6 Whiskey Alpha.
Good day, Palm Springs, ground spanning Hotel Tango, East Ramp, India, close traffic, 31 right.
Papa Hotel Tango, you might Palm Springs, ground say again, aircraft type.
Ray Cessna Sky.
Skyline Tango, you might thank you, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Echo and Bravo, 31
We're center 791 Juliet, towards ground left.
Okay, Sky 791 Juliet, we see there's no clearance delivery with this field, so would we get our departure instructions with tower or with ground?
Always go with the lowest, so we'll start with ground. Just say your intentions.
Okay, Sky 791 Juliet, type Cessna 172 on the south angles with the numbers requesting VFR advisories to
Number 791 Juliet, roger, departure frequency 134.9er, squawk 2061.
1249, that's 2061.
Got 901 Juliet, read back is correct, are you ready to taxi now?
In a couple of minutes, just go to Kingston. It's Sky 791 Juliet, south angles,
Sky 791 Juliet, roger, runway 29 right. Taxi via hotel, correction, taxi via Alpha in Juliet.
29 right taxi by Alpha and Juliet, Sky 791 Juliet. Palm Springs, Tower, spelling Papa Tango, Mike is holding short runway 31 right, Bravo, and ready for departure, close traffic.
Hello everyone, welcome. We're going to continue our IFR journey today. I've been so busy with work, so I finally found some free time to fly. So again, I feel so motivated to continue this this training and to really nail that IFR flying. So I couldn't wait to start, and here we finally are. We're going to nail the NDB approach. Exactly, finish. All hail the mighty ADF. Good luck. Yeah, I'm really looking really looking forward to see how I will do. We've already been practicing with flying NDB, so that's so that will be something that I'm already quite familiar with. I'm flying in real world weather. I'll show you right away. We're going to fly from John Wayne Airport to El Monte, a very short flight again, and we're going to fly that ADF or NDB approach into El Monte, a Delta class airport. It's the only one in Southern California, and these guys have been faded out of the aviation system, so NDB approach is just being a lover of NDBs and old-fashioned flying, I guess. So it doesn't really have that much of an educational value, but I just like to have some experience with flying the ADF, so that's why. Hey, Dad! Greetings from Crete. Ah, that's awesome! Well, good connection there. Hope you're having a lot of fun, that the weather is fine. 27 degrees. Oh, that's wonderful. Send us some pictures. Cool, Dad. Alright, so we are at John Wayne on PilotEdge, as you all can see. There's our cute little Skyhawk, and we're going to do that ADF approach. Now, what is that going to look like? It's going to look like this. NDB or GPS Charlie approach. So again, you don't see any runway mentioned, so it's very likely going to be a circling approach. It's not going to direct us right aligned with the center line of the runway, but we need to circle around semi-traffic pattern on our own to get nicely landed on the runway. So we can either do this with NDB or with GPS, and we're going to do this with NDB. And this is it, as you can see. Here's El Monte. I'll just show you the map so you have a general idea first of what we're going to do. So here's John Wayne, the Charlie class airport that we are all familiar with. So let's depart from John Wayne, go up north, and then we're going to go to the Pomona Vortex, which is part of the instrument approach into El Monte. And there is El Monte, the Delta class airport. A lot of airspace here. Obviously here at the in the center here of Los Angeles, so we need to be particularly wary of any Bravo class sections here that we are under flying, and in case of our missed approach from El Monte, of that described from that from the NDB approach, we're going to turn south here if we do that missed approach, and then also we need to not climb through 2,500 feet. Well, why? Because of this stuff and all kinds of other chunks, sections of Bravo class airspace that the guys would like us to avoid at all times. So that's something that I'm quite conscious of, aware of. Even though we're going to fly on flight following to our destination airport, particularly in this very high dense airspace, I think it's good to know what the airspace stuff is all doing. Pat, good to see you. Finish if you come here. We'll have these in space, and if a pilot comes to Europe, you'll see lots. Yeah. You told me already. Finish. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, in Europe there's a lot more ADF flying to do, or NDB flying, which is really cool. And hopefully someday PilotEdge will make the jump to Europe, and I think they will. But it will take some time to get all of the databases and all of that information from Europe to get going. So we'll have to see. So yeah, John Wayne, El Monte, and this approach. So you can see as part of that approach, here is El Monte with the NDB on top, 359er, and here you can see the Pomona Vortex, which is also the initial approach fix. It's also the intermediate fix. In any case, we're going to fly towards that Vortex. Now, if we're going to fly from the south to the north, you can see here that if we're going to fly Prado, this fix, also initial approach fix, we don't have to fly the procedure turn. No PT, no procedure turn. So that means that once we hit Pomona, we can just fly straight and capture the localizer, our NDB localizer, and head all the way down to El Monte. That also counts for if we fly to Paradise and then go in. You can see the same thing there. No PT. Everson Line, good to see you. Welcome on the stream. Good to see you. Yeah, that's good to know. In any other case, so if we would fly from the north southbound, yeah, then ATC expects us to fly this holding lieu, this procedure turn, to enter this holding pattern so that we align ourselves with the approach track. And in our case, I think it's good just to catch this particular radial inbound to Pomona so we don't have to fly that procedure turn. I don't really care. We practiced that in the previous streams as well. I don't really care that much. So let's just fly in at the inbound from the 344 radial inbound to Pomona. That's what we're going to do at 4,000 feet. Now I'm going to request to fly the approach starting from Pomona. So until we reach Pomona Vortec, we will be flying VFR as usual up to now. And that means that we need to fly a VFR cruising altitude. Now we could fly 4,500 or 3,500 because we're going up north. It's not really clear to tell whether we're going to the west or to the east. We're flying a little bit more to the east if you look at the map. So let's pick the 3,500, and that will keep us clear from any delta airspace is another kind of airspace that's out there, so that's just fine. And that means that once we reach Pomona, we need to climb up to 4,000 feet. Perhaps ATC is already going to tell us to go to 4,000 feet as soon as we are saying that we like to practice this approach under VFR starting from Pomona. In any case, 3,500 initially. There's a line, PilotEdge in Europe and Orbx and True Oath. Yeah, man, I looked up those pictures. Guys, Orbx, Netherlands, my gosh, that looks so cool. Really glad that they've finally released that software package. Still though, I have to say that Ortho 4XP, this photoreal scenery here, would also pretty much do for the Netherlands, I guess. But the only thing is obviously we don't have really proper animated or properly designed 3D objects. So that would be the Netherlands is already quite flat, but in that case in X-Plane it would be even more flat and just some generic autogen rather than some really nice iconic highlights in terms of 3D objects of buildings and stuff. So yeah, it would be wonderful to see such a package for X-Plane as well. And if Orbx is going to develop more and more for X-Plane, most likely it will also, that Netherlands pack will also be released for X-Plane sooner or later, which is good. Pat, when will you start back work on your plane? Yeah, I cannot wait. There's so much fun stuff to do, guys. But first IFR. I initially thought, well, perhaps I should mix it up and do some IFR flights here and then do some work on the Cessna, but that distracts a bit. So I'd rather just finish my IFR flying first because I'm in the flow. I'm gaining some momentum. Also, we're getting much closer to doing a full complete IFR flight for the first time, which I'm also looking forward to. So let's do that first and then continue with the Cessna Skyhawk. And meanwhile, I'm also learning more about Blender and all of that stuff that I need to know about before I can continue my work. So that's how I frame it. Okay, so this is it. Now, because it's a non-precision approach, we're not provided vertical guidance through our cockpit instruments. We need to infer that vertical guidance based off the profile view here on the approach plate, and you can see that around here. So while we are flying that particular radial using the NDB, which is 258. And again, an NDB, it doesn't have a radial, right? So we need to fiddle around there to get that ADF needle point straight to 258. While we are doing that in a lateral sense, or tracking that localizer, we need to step down, right? We need to get down to the airport, and we need to do that ourselves based off the Pomona DME, distance from Pomona. As you can see, starting from the Pomona Vortec, we're going to fly that 258 degree. It's also mentioned there, as you can see. And then from 3.1 nautical miles away from Pomona, so we're flying away from the Vortec, then we can descend further down to the final approach fix, 6.3 nautical miles, and then until we fly to the minimum decision height of 1,200 feet MSL, which corresponds to 900 feet AGL. And until we see the airport, we cannot go any lower. Right? So around that time, I hope that we already have some clearance from some instructions from tower to circle around and to land on a particular runway from a particular traffic pattern or on some side of the airport. We'll have to see, and then we just make our landing, and that's it. So that's what we're going to do. Now the weather is VMC, so it's going to be very, very easy. I do see some clouds there, so we might fly a bit into the clouds, even though I'm going to tell PilotEdge that we're flying VFR. I don't really mind. In the real world, obviously, that is not legal to do that. In that case, you can put some foggles on, and you have a safety pilot next to you who looks out of the window to see if we're clear from traffic and all kinds of stuff. But that's the benefit, I guess, of a flight simulator, that we can just do whatever we like as long as we follow all the procedures. That's about it. So let's get going, I would say. Shift 9 back to the cockpit. Yes, so again, I'm going to skip the whole pre-flight stuff. I will include that in future flights when we're going to do complete flights. But for now, let's just save up some time here and just get going. In terms of fuel, I have actually no idea. I have to see. Anything else? My scratch pad is all clear. No, I'm ready to go. Okay, so cold and dark tests. Check first. Park and brakes. Those are set. Live vest, fire extinguisher. Let's pretend that is okay. Door closed, window closed. LT set to auto. Flap lever is up, and our flaps are up. Very good. My mixture is working. Throttle is working. Trim is set. Fuel tank set to both. In. Avionics off. All the switches are off except for the beacon. That's good. Master switch is off, and the magneto switch off as well. And my SciTech panel is working. Wonderful. Let's also check our control surfaces to the right. And when it goes down, often forget this one. This check looks good. Trim tab seems to work as well. Wonderful. Okay. Then we can put on some power. Fuel, well, let's just refuel, why not? Why not? Zip, something like this. I should also be much more aware and knowledgeable of actually how much fuel I need. And obviously, ForeFlight calculates that for us, but I like to be much more in control. So the same goes for distances, how much time it would take me to fly a particular distance. Also how, in terms of my fuel burn, that stuff should be really in my head much more quicker. Also as part of the pre-flight. It's important stuff. Anyways, batteries on. Yeah, that looks much better. I'm not going to check all the lights. I believe that will just work fine. Alright, flaps down, and they go down. And they go down in sync. Transponder still off and VFR, that's good. Off, that's all off, and that's on. Looks good. What is the airport elevation? Should be, yeah, 56. Close to the sea. So something like this. That means that the current altimeter should be around 30.0-ish. Okay, my heading indicator is very, very off. Let's say that that's 1920, I guess. 20, is that about right? Yeah, that's about right. Okay, heading bug, I don't really care that much, and still everything is set. Very good. Anything else? I'm a bit lost on my checks and my flows. I've also seen a couple of YouTube videos where I saw pilots just do their flows, but then after the flow use a checklist. And I thought, my gosh, yeah, obviously that's why the thing is called a checklist. It's not really necessarily a proactive kind of guide that you use to do all the checks, so by reading and then doing. But you can also use a flow and then use that list to check to verify whether you've checked everything, right? And I should do that as well. Also, as part of my flights briefing or preparing for my landing and stuff, I've already messed up a few times, forgetting to push in my mixture and flap settings and turning on my landing lights and stuff while I was so focused on the approach. So still flying the airplane is very, very important. But as I've not been flying for a couple of weeks, I noticed that the flow is already leaving me. Finish. Remember to practice misapproaches too. Ah, yes, yes. I've already did one, I guess, a long time ago, but we can do that one as well. Perhaps even today if we like. I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference. So the one eye-opener to me was that we can also obviously declare a missed approach before we reach the missed approach point. And what's interesting is that once you are, let's say, 5 miles out, for example, you're not aligned with the localizer, or you have an equipment failure, for example, you need to do a missed approach. That once you declare a missed approach at that point, you're not obviously not safe to just turn away and turn around and say, ATC, help me to turn around and vector me back to the final approach fix, because you're then outside of the safety zone, right, of the protected area. So in that case, you should actually just stay on altitude, or fly to some other altitude, but stick on that lateral course, and then until you reach the missed approach point, and then do your thing. But I guess then if you're really far out, ATC will instruct you. But those are interesting considerations. Okay, good to see you. Hello, is this the rep in Explain? How did you get the second GPS? This is just part of Explain, and I guess also with rep, because it's default, you would also have a second GPS by default here. The only thing that I've installed here is the Reality XP extension pack, and that means that the GPS is now moduled, is now functional, almost fully functional based on the real thing. So that's what you're seeing here. But I think in the default 172, the second GPS is there as well. Let me see. So let's continue. So that is on. We can also turn on our transponder mode C. That's good. And let's turn on some GPSs here. Oh no, I shouldn't. That's why I'm talking about flows forgetting, because obviously if I now set my GPSs and I need to turn off my avionics to turn on my my engine, I will lose all of my settings, which is an interesting fact actually, that also for planning your flights, that's also what Keith is doing, and many other pilots I guess, is that once the engine is still off, you can still program your GPS based on your expected route or routing, and then save the plan. So that's a backup file, so that once you switch off the avionics and turn on your engine and turn it on again, you can just load up that saved file, rather than waiting until the engine is on and then use a lot of fuel burn there to set your fuel your flight plan. Anyways, so this is all set. This looks all good, and yeah, we can just prime and get on. So get going. Avionics off. Mixture bit in, a throttle bit in, I mean, fuel pump on, in, fuel flow, 2, 3, and cut off. Alright, really good. And everything is still set, fuel tanks are set to both. Let's go. Clear prop. Mixture full in, ignition switch back to both. 1200, oil pressure's in the green, very good. Let's turn on our alternator, a rise in the ammeter, that's good. Let's lean for ground. There was a rise of the RPM, very good. And reset to 1000. And then avionics back on again. We can retract the flaps, there they go. And here we are. And now we can set some frequencies. And what frequencies do we need? Obviously we need to depart John Wayne here, so let's do that first. Also get the weather. And here are the frequencies. We're currently parked over there. Okay, come to 126.0. That's good. And clearance delivery we need 118.0. Oh yeah, which one do we need? I guess both would still work. 118.0. Sometimes there's a different clearance controller, or just a controller for different sections of the airport, because it's so busy they have multiple people working on the same position. 118.0, yes, that's currently set, and then ground, and we are on the east side, so 120.8. Alright, 120.8, yes, that's done as well. Alright, other stuff that we need is just the second ATIS for our destination airport, and that is El Monte, which is where? There it is, 118.75. 118. Good, that's set as well. And anything else that we need in terms of communications? No. What we do need is navigation, obviously. We need to go to Pomona. And Pomona we're going to set on the NAV1. We don't need a localizer or an ILS, so it's just our primary navigational instrument, at least initially. And Pomona is... could better use this chart, I guess. Here. Pomona, 110.4. 0.4. That said, we already have a reading, as you can see, and what we're going to fly 344, right? That was the plan. So 344. There's 344. Very good. Already 2 reading, and if we already turn this stuff on, we would already see a identification, which is important. Without a fancy GPS, you could just listen to the Morse code, obviously. Yes. We're not going to really particularly rely on the GPS anyways. We will, by the way, I guess in the next flight, I would also like to do an RNAV approach. And let's fly that on the... using the GPS as much as we can. Because it's also good to know how to fully utilize your GPS, even though I really like to just fly by hand, without any autopilot, without any GPS. That's fun, at least to me, to fly in that fashion. So, but it's also good to know how to use the GPS. Also relating to that flight with Keith a couple of weeks ago, how he was using his GPS in conjunction with just hands-on, minds-on IFR flying. It's really interesting. Let's turn that one off. Is there ARC for all these airspace? Matt, I don't know what you're referring to. Oh, RC. I guess you know it's flying. Ah, right. I think I can do that as well. Let me see. Boom. Thank you. Let me see. GPS is important. So I need to nail that and make that a topic as well to focus on that while I'm flying. Even though I'm slant alpha, GPS is important. Okay, Pomona, we set that 344, 4003. We're going to fly 3500. And I'm going to request advisories to Almonte. I could also request advisories to Pomona and then request the approach into Almonte. But I guess it's better just to say Almonte, and then once we're flying and we're talking to departure, I'm going to say, hey, we'd like to do this particular instrument approach. Okay, that's good. Obviously, we need to NDB, right? That's what this stuff is all about. So 359er, it's already set, as you can see. No, it's ADF. Is that already set? Swapped? 359. You can see it's already working. Can we also identify it? Does that work? Not here. Here. Very, very important to identify that stuff, especially with ADFs. Not that there are so many NDBs, I guess, out there, but it's always good to make sure that you read what you're supposed to read out. 359. Let's bet that is okay. What we could also do is, because at least this compass rose doesn't do anything, it doesn't change the direction where the arrow is pointing towards. you can still set it based on the particular heading that you like to fly, just as a memory aid or intellectual aid, mental aid. So we're going to fly 258, as you can see, 258. So let's set it to that, 258. There we go. Very good. Yeah, and not much else we can do, I think. We have an NDB, or we have the vortex set. We've got our DME. That's important for our step down. And we've got our NDB going, our ADF active. And that's about it, I think. You get a cam that shows your yoke. Yeah, Matt, I've been thinking about that as well, to get an additional webcam to show the cockpit. I actually got a pretty fancy cockpit. I think I can even show you guys. Let me see if I can, and then we need to get going. Camera. Does that work? Yeah, it works. So this is my cockpit. And this is my yoke, and I built my own. This is all from wood. So I've integrated the SciTech panel, all of that stuff, yeah, into this desk. It's a flight simulator desk, that's what you can call it. And yeah, it works pretty well. That's my second screen with all of Twitch stuff. So yeah, and also rudders. I also really like the carpet here, there you can see. Just to give it a little bit of a sense of a real Cessna. I just love it. Alright guys, let's get back to business. Let's get focused. Everything is set. We need all the navigation communications are set. Wonderful. 3,500 to Almonte. We're at the east ramp currently. Yep, I think we're pretty much ready to go. This is all set. COM2, we should listen.
Orange County, John Wayne information November. 2000 Zulu weather. Wind 110 at 7. Visibility more than 10. Sky conditions 2,600 scattered. 4,600 broken.
Thanks for the follow, Matt.
6,600 broken. Temperature 16. Dew point 10. Altimeter 3000.
Yeah, which corresponds, so we know that our altimeter is actually working.
Left. Departing runways 20 right.
Okay, so yes, we got November, and we can already switch our nav2 to our destination airport. Also, fun fact, I guess, I asked Keith a while ago that while I was flying the instrument approach, or just before I was flying the instrument approach, and I was listening to the ADIS of my destination airport, because I was on flight following already, I was obviously flying in using the altimeter setting based off that section that I was flying in, right? So that Tracon knows that I'm at the same kind of altitude as all of the other guys in that sector. So I was wondering, when do I need to switch my altimeter to the altimeter setting associated with my destination airport? And obviously, that is once you are cleared for the approach. As soon as the ATC is saying cleared for the approach, NDB, blah 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 blah, that's the time when I can actually switch my altimeter setting to the local setting of the airport. So again, something interesting. Grumpy, how much would a setup like this be approximately? Well, Grumpy, the cockpit costs, I think, around 1,000 euros, which is not too bad, including the panels. And I made the desk all of myself, which was so cool, just to design it, and it's actually the right proportions of a Cessna. So also my throttle levers, as you've seen, are at the same height, which is really fun. Also weird when I was flying in a real Skyhawk that it's actually so much the same. It's really weird. Also my side panel with my switches here is a little bit to the left side, right? So that's not really in front of me, and it's really nice and tidy. All of the wires and USB stuff is all connected and integrated, and there's just one. The entire flight simulator desk outputs just one USB, a powered USB that you can put into your computer. So I really thought carefully about a proper flight simulation desk, and I'm just absolutely digging it. The only thing is, most likely by the end of this year I'm going to transition to VR flying, virtual reality flying, and then a lot of this hardware stuff is a bit redundant. because then I will use my virtual hands to switch knob. Now I will still use the yoke, and I will still use the levers, perhaps even also the trim. I'm not quite sure, but then this stuff is actually in the way, and I need a much more leaner skeleton-like flight simulator desk. It's not going to be a desk anymore, I think, because then I need to be able to freely move around my hands in reference to the virtual cockpit there. So that's when I need to rethink about the cockpit. But I'm loving this thing. It's really cool. Your streams make me want to start flying sim, but I have so many other things I want to do. Yeah, Grumpy, I know what you're saying there. I'm also so busy, and I've also been looking at other streamers as well, and I think, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to fly. That's just life. And that's also why it's so wonderful that Twitch is here, so we can enjoy others flying. We do still have a sense of flying in a way. Like most streamers, you're interesting me so much in GSM. I like flying the big planes. Thank you, Matt. Well, again, thank you for the follow and thank you for being here. Alright, but I need to get focused. I don't feel that focused today. I feel like flying, but I'm not really in tune. Which is not a good thing, and actually also a real thing. I mean, also for real-world pilots, your psychological state, your well-being, your mental well-being is important. It's the first check before you're even going to consider flying. So, and the same stuff applies to flight sim. If I'm tired or ill, or what's the list of all the mental checks that you need to do, I can tell that my flying, my ATC, my thinking suffers from that, like it would in the real world. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm burning fuel here. Like a maniac. Mode C, everything is set. 1800 is clearance delivery. That's good. We're at the east ramp. We've got November.
16 Go Hotel. Radar services terminate Scorpio 4. Contact Oxnard Tower. 134.905.
Very good. Let's also fasten our seatbelts. Also real seatbelts in the chair, because I just like it. That's all good. I think we're just ready to go. It's not that difficult though what we need to do today, but I just feel out of sync. Are you a real pilot? No, I am not. I'm an uncertified pilot. No, I'm not. I'm living in the Netherlands, and to get your PPL here would cost you about 20,000 euros, and a lot of costs just keeping current and stuff. It's so expensive. Plus, flight simulation is evolving into something so cool. It's so community-based that oftentimes when I fly here at my local airport in a Skyhawk, I actually feel it's a little bit lacking, which is silly. I mean, I just love the feel of flying, but it's so expensive. You need a lot of planning. I could just hop into a cockpit, chat with you guys here, and stop at any time and have a drink and learn a lot. It's especially with VR, obviously. So I'm actually digging flight simulation quite a lot. Anyways, November. Let's just get going, guys. I'm so sorry.
It's Santa Barbara ground, November 346. I just wanted to confirm that this is for the Caddy.
3486, Roger. However, you said it'll be the northwest.
Yeah, exactly, Matt.
The Caddy goes to Burbank, so that'll be an eastbound departure.
Oh, that's cool, Grumpy.
Sorry, I was looking at my wrong flight plan here, November 3486.
3846, Roger. Just confirm the aircraft type.
Aircraft type is a Pilatus PC-12.
Now, let's do a cold call first.
Thank you.
She is putting some information in the system, but...
Oxnard Tower, Skyhawk 716 Tango Hotel is 7 miles to the northwest to land with Golf.
Correct, 716 Tango Hotel, Oxnard Tower, report midfield right, downwind, runway 25.
Perhaps flight gears. Good to see you. Perhaps. Or perhaps in Florida, in the US.
425, 46 Tango Hotel.
Crash course in 2 weeks or so.
Santa Maria ground, good morning. Skyhawk 978 Alpha Papa at the east ramp with information echo, looking for a VFR departure to the north.
I should be more quick with my request here.
30 taxi via Alpha.
Runway 30, taxi via Alpha, Skyhawk 8 Alpha Papa.
John Wayne clearance. Good day, Skyhawk, Papa Hotel Tango Mike with a VFR request. Hello.
PHTIM, John Wayne clearance, go ahead.
We're at the east ramp here with November. We'd like to have flight following to El Monte at 3,500, if that's okay for today.
PHTIM on departure, flight heading 330, maintain VFR out below 2,400 till advised. Departure frequency 128.1, squawk 3056.
After departure, heading 330, will stay below 2,400, departure frequency 128.1, and squawk 3056 for Papa Delta Mike.
PHTIM, read back direct.
Alright, 3056. Important, right? Departure instructions. And why is this? Well, we're a small little GA aircraft at a big airport with big airplanes with all kinds of instrument departures and approaches. We need to get our butts away from those big airplanes. That's what ATC likes us to do as well, and that's why we get these instructions here, which are pretty much always the same. And that makes VFR flying with flight following kind of like IFR-ish. You get some instructions here, which is cool, and then the squawk code and stuff. But the squawk code you also get without flight following.
Ground, runway 25, taxi via Juliet.
Well, that's not really true. You could say runway at any time when you land at a Charlie class airport or Bravo class airport, you will get a squawk code. Anyways, yes, 128.1, very good, Tim. And now you can switch to ground, and that means you have a standby frequency available.
Los Angeles Tower, wind 210 cross runway 25 right. It's actually closed for construction currently. Runway 25 left, clear for takeoff.
Okay, clear to cross 25 right and 25 left.
Runway 20 left we're going to get, so that's 119.9. Got the right tower frequency there. Okay, so that's set, so we shift
Who else was calling?
our frequencies around.
And that was Skyhawk 978 Alpha Papa.
We're going to
Santa Maria,
tune in with ground. What are we going to expect? As usual, Alpha, Hotel, Charlie, and then Kilo. Usually it's a intersection departure here.
29011.
So that's what I'm expecting. Let's see.
Runway 30, clear for takeoff. Skyhawk 8 Alpha Papa.
John Wayne ground, Sky Papa Delta Tango Mike east ramp with November ready for taxi.
PHTIM, John Wayne ground, runway 20 left, taxi via Alpha Hotel Charlie Kilo.
20 left via Alpha Hotel Charlie Kilo Papa Delta Mike. Alright, as expected. Alright, everything is still set, engine is still good. Yeah, parking brakes released, brake test works. No traffic here to the left, not to the right. Let's go. Turn indicator, slip indicator, heading indicator, everything is working. Attitude indicator is stable. Nice. I'm gonna go on to Alpha, I mean. And there we go.
Victorville Tower, Skyhawk 213 Juliet Sierra, west inbound for landing with whiskey.
Alright, so winds are coming from the right, I believe. If I remember the ATIS, where's the windsock? Yeah, there's the windsock. So that means crosswind correction. Because a little Skyhawk will be tumbling over if we are not careful.
Oxnard Tower, Skyhawk 716 Tango Hotel is right midfield, runway 25.
Also the ADF is working.
Sky 16 Tango Hotel, runway 25, clear to land, wind, calm.
Clear to land, runway 25.
Here's our hotel. And then
Calling about the land,
right onto Charlie.
November 213 Juliet Sierra.
November 21 Juliet Sierra, Victorville Tower. Say again your direction of flight. I'm sorry, your direction.
There we go,
from the
until the
airport,
end,
Roger.
until Kilo.
10 miles.
So
west,
again, departure
inbound
330, 2400. Switch over to departure.
Juliet Sierra.
and then we get to Pomona.
Enter left base.
And then once we're at 3,500, I'm going to say departure. This is what I'd like to do. I like to practice a VFR approach, the NDB approach,
left base,
into El Monte, and hoping that we are clear to do that.
Santa Barbara Tower, November 3486, holding short.
Our first NDB approach. That's going to be interesting.
292, contact SoCa departure.
292, switching to departure.
That is 3486, Santa
Engine still
Barbara
looking
Tower.
good.
Wind 2207, runway 25, clear for takeoff.
Runway 25, clear for takeoff, November 3486.
November 213 Jet Sierra, what runway?
Nice cloud deck there. So we're gonna fly
3 Juliet Sierra, it's runway
in
21,
IMC, I guess, a couple of
base,
times
runway
today,
21.
which is good.
November 213 Jet Sierra, runway 21 left base.
I believe that's true, Flight Gear X. Airflow Labs is not good, even though they make proper commercial aircraft. Also, I think specifically for flight training, the thing is buggy and such a weird behavior flight model. Also in Playmaker, the thing looks so off. Go with SimCoder's Reality Extension Pack and fly the 172, the default 172. Or even better, in about 6 months, our own Skyhawk. I'm building one myself as well for X-Plane. Okay. There we are. Mixture full in. Looks good. Let's do our power check here. 1800. There we go. No shader messages. Looks good. Everything is still stable. Left mag. Good enough drop in the RPM. Back to both. Comparable on the right mag. And back to both. Looking good. All the way to idle to see if our engine doesn't quit on us, and the oil pressure is still in the green, that it is. Very good. Alright, on out your flaps. A little bit downward trim I like, I prefer. Landing light on, strobe light on. This is still set mode C. We can switch to tower 119.9 and set our departure frequency. That we're already prepared, which is so important. Thinking ahead, guys. I still need to practice that a bit more. Always staying ahead of the game. That's IFR flying, also VFR flying, by the way. But
and report base.
330 2400. Double check our cross. 230, 230-ish. Let's see. We're already a little bit gyro drifting here, which is not good. Alright. Good. Yeah, ready to go. Jiangwing Tower, Sky, Pop Hotel, Tango Mike. Sounding short, 20 left at Kilo, ready for departure.
486, your radar contact.
I stepped on someone.
Santa Barbara departure, 3486.
Yeah, 292 looks like you made a right turn. If you look at the departure, it's always going to be a left turn, and I did emphasize that on the instructions. It should be a left turn direct clipper during the departure. Otherwise, you are flying right, or flying opposite direction.
2400. Once we're clear on course, 3500 to Pomona inbound, and then we're going to request our practice approach. So change our chart here, by the way. So
United 292 affirmative.
Oxnard Tower, Skyhawk 716 Tango.
I was first.
Runway 25 at Bravo.
PHTIM, runway tower 1180, 10, runway 20 left to Kilo, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 20 left. Papa Tango Mike. That was nice. All right, there we go.
06 Tango, tell taxi depart can be a Foxtrot, remain this frequency.
Departing
no
via
traffic on the perch.
46 Tango Tower.
No one is on the runway.
3486, Santa Barbara departure, resume on
Wind is now coming from the right, so right crosswind correction. Everything looks good, and full power. There we go, airspeed's alive, engine still in the green, full RPM. Slowly removing that crosswind correction with my yoke. 50, 60, and nose up. There we go. Wind was coming from the left, by the way. I misspoke there. Alright, 200 feet. AGL, nose a bit down. That's 300 flaps up. And around 400 we can start our fly our departure instructions. So here we are. Right rudder a bit, keep that nose up so we stay at VOI. 3, 3,
Los Angeles
0.
125.27.
Let's trim a bit here.
HTIM, your radar contact, SoCal departure.
Over to departure, Papa Delta Tango Mike. Switch. SoCal departure, Sky Papa Delta Tango Mike at 900 feet for 2,400.
PHTIM, SoCal departure, maintain appropriate V for altitudes.
We'll maintain appropriate V for altitudes. Well, so still 330. We're not free to go on course. Whoa! Change of weather there. Now we only need to fly appropriate VFR altitudes above 3,000 feet AGL. So because we are assigned 2,400, we're just free to fly 2,000 or 2,100 or whatever.
Yeah, 292 Los Angeles Center, climb and maintain flight level 230.
So let's fly 2,000. Some interesting winds here. Do have to make sure on the map that we're not crossing any other airport here at 2000, a shelf, a delta shelf, and I don't think so, as long as we're underflying the Bravo. Yes, we do have Fullerton there, which goes up to 2,500, but we cannot go any higher than that. Good. There goes our speeds, back to cruise. Good. Trim.
Air 3 Juliet Sierra runway 21, clear to land. Now wind 206.
You can also use the GPS for specifically that purpose. Hoping that we will see the delta there, Fullerton, but we're talking to ADC, so we have to establish two-way communication. So that shouldn't be a problem that we're bashing into the airspace of Fullerton. Okay. Let's set our heading bug to 19. That's the runway heading off El Monte. Flight Direct, how's your plane going? Yeah, I've completed the plane model, so in PlaneMaker now I need to work on the actual 3D model. So
I did 292 contact Los Angeles
in Blender.
3.5.
So that's the next stage. I cannot wait to start with that. But first IFR flying, earning all of my I ratings.
PHTIM, resume on navigation.
We'll zoom on navigation, but doesn't make. Alright, so we're free. That means that we can do whatever. It doesn't mean that we can change our squawk code, because that should be explicitly mentioned. So there we go up, and I'm interested in catching that particular radial. We are on flight following, so we should get traffic alerts by ADC if workload permits. But we are still responsible for not flying into any other traffic, so that's why I'm very keen on spotting any traffic. Alright, I'd like to go a little bit more to the east there to catch this needle. Because what we like to do is fly this initial leg. on, go up, Tim. Go up. Some nice clouds here. That I'm sure we're going to fly into. Come on, I'm using the trim here, but my plane gets nose down too quickly. Yeah, that's much better. Let's give it full power as well. Just get up to 3,500. Oh my gosh, that's expensive, Grumpy. Man. Yeah, so that wards me a bit away from earning my PPL in the Netherlands. It's so expensive. And flight simulating is getting more exciting by the month. Especially with VR. So I'm actually, my interest in actually earning my PPL is actually diminishing, honestly. But still, just to earn that thing, it was still a dream that I'd like to realize someday. 3,500, very good. We just stay at the base of the cloud layer. That's nice. Again. I'd like to go a bit more to the east here to catch that needle. We're Skyhawks, so we're flying so slow, so we can easily make that turn, sharp turns. We're above 3,000 feet, MSL, so we can also lean, so that's what I'm doing right now. See the HT going up. Perfect. Let's turn off our landing lights as well. Well, we can keep those on. Alright, 3,500, everything looks good. Let's switch to the COM2 because I like to be very knowledgeable.
Information
Oscar.
2100 Zulu weather. Wind calm. Visibility 9. Sky conditions 2,400 broken. 4,400 broken. Temperature 15. Dew point 9. Altimeter 3002. Arriving run
002. That's a bit too much. 02. Yeah. So I know what the altimeter setting is, the local altimeter setting. Very good. And I think that I see the needle moving in. Yeah, it goes very slowly, but we have some movement. That's good. So that means that we're going to fly this particular leg here. We're a bit in front of it actually, so we're a bit down. And we're flying at 3,500 and not at 4,000. So in any way we're clear of any IFR traffic. So let's request our approach. And what we're going to request, the VFR approach, NDB approach. The NDB approach into El Monte, starting from Pomona Vortec under VFR. Couldn't understand a word. Yeah, Oxy, I have the same actually, and PilotEdge still has taught me a lot, but it's such a clear and crisp channel that still, once I'm in a real Skyhawk, and especially here in the Netherlands because they also use a slightly different format, I still find it so hard to understand those guys. Yeah. Alright, so let's request our practice approach.
Approach 135.4.
135.4 Papa Tango. That was just in time. Let's switch. SoCal approach, Sky Corporate Hotel Tango Mike is level 3500 with a request.
PHDIM SoCal approach, Ontario altimeter 2999, go ahead.
0.99, probably that's it, Mike. We'd like to practice the NDB approach into El Monte, starting from the Pomona Vortec under VFR practice, if that's okay. Let's see if we are granted. Tracking that needle.
HCIM, Roger, stand by.
Standing by. Okay, don't need to acknowledge standby. Again, stand by means shut up. I'm busy. Alright, checking that needle, as you can see now, flying a bit more to the west.
PHDIM across Pomona at 4,000. Correction, at or above 4,000. Cleared. NDB Charlie practice approach.
Ah, yes.
Maintain VFR and expect runway 19er.
Alright, we're going to cross Pomona at or above 4,000, cleared for the NDB Charlie approach as VFR. We expect runway 19er. Thanks for the help. Papa does it. Okay, so one thing that I'm noticing, I'm not quite knowledgeable actually.
9292 cross
Still
Meissen at
lost the already crossed the track here, so let's focus. There's also in terms of a sterile cockpit, and that's a bit difficult when you're flying on Twitch and streaming, but you're continuously chatting and you're distracting yourself, which is a bad excuse, but still it is. Is that she didn't explicitly mention that we were doing a VFR practice approach, and that means that perhaps she just turned us around into an IFR, and that she doesn't need to explicitly mention that we are IFR, and it doesn't really matter that much because we have a squawk code and we're just doing our thing.
Plus 3486 Point McGill approach, Oxnard altimeter 3001.
But in any case, that was something that I noticed. Now, come on. Let's track that thing. We're 7.3 nautical miles away from Pomona. Let's brief what we need to do. We already got the weather for El Monte. We can also set the tower frequency already. So we're ready as well. That's 1 to 1.2. 1 to 1.2. So once we're flying and doing step downs, we don't have to look that up. Still, Tim, focus. 5 miles. So I think that we are ready to go to 4,000. All right, on the needle. And what do we need to do? Well, because we're flying from Prado, we don't have to make a procedure turn, right, as we briefed. So we can fly the ADF right away. Yes, we can also set this to our current heading, by the way. That's 344. 344. Because now I can read whether that thing is gonna hit. That's 4,000. Interesting. Ah, this is good practice, guys. Let's see if I can manage. Okay, there's 4,000. Getting a little bit in on the needle. 4 nautical miles. Very good. I'm expecting. Thanks for the follows, guys. I need to focus here. Track 258. 258. Yes. So as we're flying, this needle is going to turn downwards. 258. So it should go all the way down till here, and then I know that I'm actually on that localizer wish thing. TKC Bastian, thanks for the follow. I'm practicing my first NDB approach here, so that's why I'm a bit focused. Also turn on our landing lights. We are already cleared for the approach, so that means that we can already change our altimeter to 02. That was 9er, was it? Yeah, it was 9er. 9er it was. So 9er, very important that you got a current setting. 2 nautical miles from Pomona. So we're getting very, very close. Yeah, that confirms as well. Got a bit of a wind going. Still, it's pointing towards 270. Should get to 260 soon. Still have 1.4 nautical miles to go, but I would expect to see that needle on 2.4 a bit better. 3.3. Oh no, yeah, that makes sense. I need to turn this around because we're flying a corrected wind setting, and now we're at 2.6. Yeah, thanks. So now we can turn around. We also go to the profile view here. We're at Pomona, so we can go down to 3,700. There we go. Making that turn, standard rate turn. So now the ADF needle should go up. And as we go down to 3,700. Which is already there. 3.1 nautical miles away. So there's 3.7. Alright, good.
SoCal departure
overturned.
516 Delta Mike on the ground at Corona with the weather. IFR detected I-11.
Something like this, yes. Oh! You can see I even put full power, but already bashed my altitude here. I've gone through 3,700, so that's not good.
Skyline 516 Delta Mike, SoCal approach clear from Corona Airport to Victorville Airport as filed. Maintain 4,000, expect 9,000.
Alright, 3,700. Neil is pointing up and we're flying 258, so that's perfect.
Squawk 6704.
Until 3.1 DME from Pomona, currently at 2.1. Then we can go down further. It's a step down to 2,900.
Last filed,
and this is the difficulty with a non-precision approach. You need to look at your instrument and your chart at the same time and do multiple things. With a precision approach, you could just read one instrument. You get a nice glide to your runway. It's much easier.
Contact Los Angeles Center 134.65.
Okay, still going strong. 3.1 is coming up. We're currently at 2.9. There we go.
PHTIM. No separation services will be provided. Radio services terminate squawk VFR and contact El Monte Tower 121.2.
Going VFR and we're switching over to tower. Papa Delta Mike.
3486.
Switch. Already prepared that.
34.2.
We already crossed that first step down, so we did two things at the same time here. Already crossed this point here, so we can now go to 2,900 while we keep our needle pointed towards. Should also correct my compass here.
United 292 Los Angeles Center cross Clar at maintain 13000.
My compass rose, I should say.
2988.
Oh, other way around. There we go. So we're a bit to the right. What's our compass doing? That's also good. Okay. El Monte Tower, Sky Papa Delta Tango Mike is on the NDB Charlie approach. Should mention the weather as well. And I didn't.
PHTIM El Monte Tower. Report established left base runway 19.
Report left base 19 Papa Delta Mike. Okay. Very good. Let's go down. Oh. Already past my altitude here. There's another traffic here just flying by. More power. More power, more power, more power, more power. and 5.7 on the NDB. We need to look for 6.3, and then we can go down to our minimum decision height. Still going strong. We're a bit to the north of our track. Alright. 6.3 on the NDB. So let's go down again. This is also an additional challenge of flying a non-precision probe, because you're going step down. You need to change your configuration all of the time. You need to go down and then stabilize again. Go down while you're checking your plates. With a glide slope, you're just going straight on. You have one configuration, you just glide down, which is much more easy. So now we're going down to 1200 feet MSL. That's the lowest that we can go until we see the airport. If we see the airport, we can follow up the instructions by ATC, and that's the left base for 19er. So that's going to be a little bit to the right there and then land. That's the circling approach bit. So let's go further down, keep a steady descent. Lights are all on, mixture full in. Should have done it already at the fixed final approach fix here. This is the time when you need to do your final checks, and also look at the checklist. Can you imagine the pressure? My gosh. Okay, so going down 1200, we still have some way to go. ADF is still okay, but it's the circling approach, so it just brings us to the airport, not to the runway, so we're not need to be that precise. Alright, anyways, left base.
Here 258 Golf Tango, Bakersfield ground, and you said IFR?
So let's go this direction a bit. This is the heading block that I already set to 19er because I expected that runway based off the general winds of LA. So we're now flying a base turn. I can see El Monte on my GPS here. Also put my one flap in already, and I'm curious to see the airports. Where is it? Still in front of me, I guess.
258 Golf Tango, clear to
I think I see it already.
Atwater Airport. On departure from
yeah, I could have actually kept my flaps up a bit. I think that is the airport.
6,000 expected.
And that is correct. There's the tower.
And, the
so we're now on the left base.
Going northwestbound. Departure frequency 1.
And that means that we pretty much completed our little approach here.
To the castle.
Still need to await our
runway heading after
clearance to land.
Then radar vectors to Sheffer.
We were clear for the approach, but not for landing.
6,000 1.
And one thing I should have done as well, and that relates to the flaps, is should keep my speed up. Because mostly these approaches are also flown by airplanes that go much quicker, and they like to have a rapid traffic flow, a safe but rapid traffic flow.
That one too, and then
so it's good just to fly these approaches. I didn't report.
PHT, I am happy with saying runway 19er for land.
Clear land 19er probably doesn't make things. Just thought about. Just thought about reporting because that was the request that she. That's what she requested.
Main outside Van Nuys Delta airspace.
Go down. Still looking good. No other traffic here. Runways coming in. Not going too slow here. This is one of the most dangerous turns, especially with flaps on, low speed, and then making a turn close to the ground.
Final for runway 8 into Burbank. Remain outside Van Nuys Delta airspace. Overhead
left rudders here.
Contact
Watch that speed. Nose down.
Correction 118.7.
Very good. 2 whites. Perfect. Trim. Made the fields. So full flaps. Make sure full in. Everything is lit up. Good. Yeah. So once you're very close to the runway, like a few miles just before I am right now, then you should change your speed and go to your 55 knots of approaching the runway. keep your speed
United
as
292
high up as
contact
possible
Las
for as
Vegas
long as
approach
possible.
125.9er.
19er. Our NDB approach. That was fun. Nose up. Nose up. Nice. Flaps up. Can we get this exit and help ATC also to free up this runway? Yes, we can. Welcome to Almonte, guys. NDB approach.
United 292 Las Vegas approach altimeter 2988.
And we are currently at Delta.
Via the Capex 6
I think.
arrival.
Yes, Delta.
Expect stand by.
Boom. 1000. Landing lights off. Strobe lights off. Let's lean for ground. Looking good. I'm still squawking, by the way. Did she say to me that I should also go 1200 in the squawk? VFR squawk VFR?
Yeah, 292 expect visual approach runway 26.
Not quite sure. We need to review that in the video, I guess. Everything is set. Yeah, done. Tower, and we can already set ground. Which should always be on this plate as well. Ground 125.9er. Such.
CIM taxi to parking via Alpha this frequency today.
Via Alpha to parking. Thanks for the help today, Papa Desmark.
Burbank Tower.
Alright, no need to change our frequencies here. Via Alpha, this is Alpha, and to parking, so we can do whatever.
Burbank Tower, report established on runway 8.
Report established, number 2486.
Let's see, we can park over here, I think. We can even park just in between these two Skyhawks, perhaps. Can we do that? I guess so. Alrighty. Alrighty. Yes. Something like this. Good. Then transponder off. 1200s.
Sky 6 Delta Mike, go ahead.
Avionics off and cut off. Brrr. And there we are. Magneto switch off, batteries off. Parking brake set, door open. Made it! NDB approach. That was interesting. My first general feel for this flight was that I was just behind the ball. I was just behind the game. So I descended through my altitudes a couple of times, almost 200 feet, which is too much. I recovered quite quickly, so that's good. My ADF tracking was perfect. Yeah, I guess mainly the altitudes were a thing. Let's also review the flight itself. Let's see the flight track. Disconnect.
Connected.
That's our flight track. Let's get out. What I can also do first, actually, is close my door, because otherwise we have a Skyhawk flying with an open door, which is not pretty. Yes, let's go out. Yeah, so left base made sense. Was good that I prepared my handling bar. I did a lot of preparations which really made my life so much easy. Thanks, Vanish. Thank you for dropping by and encouraging me. I really appreciate your presence, as you know. So there I went, and we can also look at the step downs themselves, which is interesting, I think. Let's go a little bit more forward. We should see some kind of a step down behavior there in my flight track. What is the wind at EMT? It is currently reporting winds calm. Winds calm. Yeah, you can see the step down, right? You can see it here. Yeah, so that was pretty okay. Pretty okay. What can I improve on? Yes, so let me also just review so we hear and we see some flying. Something like this. Explain? Yeah, thank you. Very good. Let's remove this, and the scenery is still loading. Yeah, so yeah, I did kind of okay. My ATC was good. My preparation was good. So the initial flight planning was all fine. But I think also just briefing the approach just before you're actually flying it, so just loading the approach in your mind, briefing the approach, is much more important than just glancing over the chart and say, oh yeah, I know. It's really going through the steps and what's your first thing to do and what's your very next step. So I should pay a little bit more of a conscious effort there to brief the approach. In terms of, especially with a non-precision approach, when I need to do my step downs myself, I need to know not only what altitude I need to go to, but also how many miles I have to get to that altitude before I need to do the next step down. So especially with a non-precision approach, you need to rehearse. This is a very nice landing, by the way. You really need to rehearse that stuff. So that should be much more systematic, I feel. So when I was looking at the chart here, so you can also do this. Yeah. I mean, it's not that difficult though. But while I was flying that Prado bit, so this little bit, I was thinking, oh, here I'm at a Prado, and oh, we're gonna do this NDB approach, blah blah. Until just before Pomona, I thought, okay. But once we reach Pomona, I need to do stuff. And what do I need to do exactly? Oh yeah, the NDB, and I need to turn the ADF compass. I need to go down, and then, so I was. I need to review this this flight video, but I think I remember that I felt a little bit overtaken by the old thing, and that's why I also descended through the altitudes, because and you need to fly the airplane, and you need to look at the chart, and you need to do so many things at the same time that any preparation that you can do, any study that you can do, proper study of the approach really helps. Yeah, it was a good thing that I already got the ATIS. That was good. Also set the standby frequency to tower, so I can just switch once I was already doing the step downs. That really helped. So those were good preparations. But for the flying the actual approach itself, I should have been a little bit more careful. Thanks for the follow, Tommy. Thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah, and I think I've also misled myself just a bit by thinking that, oh, once I hit Pomona, I still have this time left. Before I reach Pomona, I need to do something. But that was not correct, because I just went right into Pomona. So I immediately needed to turn. And look at that. It's a 3.1 nautical mile distance space that I need to go down. Also, I wasn't that aware of practically that the difference between 4,000 feet and 3,700 is just 300 feet. So I was really going down and pulling on my throttle, while I should have actually just pointed my nose down and kept up my speed as high as possible. Not really as high as possible, but just to keep that pace going. Yeah, and it's the same for that next step down, 3.2 nautical miles. Yeah, and I think for both of those altitudes I descended through the MEA. Yes, and then we got the instructions. Yeah, and I was a bit late with my landing checks, so I did those just beyond the final approach fix, which is not too bad. We're still far away from the airport, but again, it's good to have a routine and to do this stuff on time. And again, that would really would have put me off guard, I think, when I was doing this particular approach, and at the same time I should also reach to my checklist and double check whether my checks were actually good in terms of my. But I don't think that the last gump checks, so whether your mixture is full in and your landing lights are on, that you should check those with a checklist. Those should be memory items. Because of that very fact, because if in that case, when you're looking at the approach plate and you're figuring out your step downs, you shouldn't look at anything else other than your plate and your flying, obviously. So no, I shouldn't consider getting my checklist at that particular point. I should do that before I fly the approach. Yeah. Yeah, finish. Totally, that's totally right. If we had a proper crosswind as well, it was much more difficult, and that would be fun as well to do that one day. Also including a missed approach, but especially flying a non-precision approach, also with a localizer with a significant crosswind. Yeah, but I think there's still a lot of work for me to do. Again, briefing and actually just the mental management of doing the approach itself. That should be much more routine work, and to me it was just a little bit frantic. But I'm curious to review the video and have a look at how I did. Okay, so and then I went to the airport. It was totally clear what I needed to do. Left base 19, already set that heading book, and there I went. And I put the flaps a little bit too early. It wasn't a problem for the airplane or for me, but to be courteous to ATC and to the entire system, actually, for the jets or other people that could have been behind me, it would have been better just to stay at 120 knots, 120 or 110, 100 knots, and even on final to keep that speed up until I'm just a mile out, and then to cut the throttle and go back and land. And that's something that I'd like to incorporate into my IFR flying as well, so with our future streams. Alright, then anything else? Well, one thing that I was considering, I'm flying this particular approach based off of my DME, right? The distance from Pomona, as you can see, 3.1 and 6.3, which is good because we have DME. But I was really impressed by Keith. I flew with him a couple of weeks ago in New Jersey in his Lancer, and we were flying IFR. It was just an amazing experience, also just to see him in his natural habitat doing IFR and managing himself in the airplane and ATC at the same time. And one of the things that I was noticing as well, Toby Duck 2000, thanks for the follow, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the support. Yeah, thanks. One of the things that I really liked was that he was also even considering, on top of all this, redundancies. So what if our DME failed on us while we were doing this approach? Then we wouldn't know when we need to go down, when we were allowed to go down. And in that case, you know here, if you look at the approach plate, that those intersections, those step-down fixes, are also referenced based on radials from Seal Beach. So what I could have done, because I had instruments to spare, and I didn't consider that at all. It wasn't primarily necessary, but still, I could have set my nav2 to, I should have set my nav2 to Seal Beach, and set initially the first radial, or perhaps the second, I don't know, so that in case my DME failed, I could just immediately refocus to my nav2 and still make that approach. So that's an advanced, but still a thing that's on my mind. And I don't have the mental space to incorporate that in this stage of my training, but I should very, very soon. And in addition, on that same note, why is that not here? Usually there's also a... that's interesting. There's not really a missed approach. Well, there's a missed approach point, obviously here, this little arc. But usually there's also a table here. Let me close this one. Boom. Yeah. There's a little table here at the bottom of the airport diagram that shows you for different speeds the time that it takes you to get from the final approach fix to that missed approach point. And why do you need that? Yeah, I don't quite know why they didn't put that in here. Because you're doing step downs. So step downs, right? So you will never fly with a non-precision approach this particular glide path. like you are flying an ILS because you don't have vertical guidance. So what you're going to do, as everyone recommends, is as soon as you're going to hit a step down fix, you're going to go down as fast and safe as you can. So not with 500 feet per minute, but 800 feet per minute. That's kind of like the rule until you hit that bottom floor, 3,700 in this case. And then you're going to stick at 3,700 until you reach the next step down point. And so you step down, right? Now, that's all good, but if you're on that final section, again, yeah, still drawing, and we go down here, so we hit the final approach fix, then we can go down to our minimum decision height, 1,200 feet. If we were in IMC, in this case we had good weather, but if we wouldn't see the airports, here and here and here and here, then when do we know when we hit the missed approach point? Because we don't have a DME here. And so usually, I'm not quite sure, I should study this a bit more. If anyone knows, please let me know in chat. That's why they put that table in, so that once you hit the final approach fix, with non-precision approaches I mean, if you hit that final approach fix and you go down, you know with a certain speed, you need to fly 90 knots or 60 knots, or you need to interpolate. You see how many minutes it takes you and seconds it takes you to get to the missed approach point. And you should set the timer. So once you reach that number, that time, you know, well, I don't see the airport, I'm in complete IMC, so I know that I'm now over the missed approach point and I need to declare my missed approach. That makes sense. Now, why doesn't this particular approach doesn't provide you with that particular table here? So there should be another way to determine once we hit the NDB, well, because we have an NDB, and it will swap around from a pointing up position to a pointing down position. That indicates that we are crossing the NDB, so that would be an obvious indication that we crossed El Monte. Still though, if you're off track for a couple of miles, then you wouldn't see that much of an obvious swap, but still. We've got 5.9 nautical miles here mentioned at the bottom, but that's just that initial section. I would have liked to see the same kind of NDB or same kind of distance measurement here, like the 6.3, here at the NDB as well. For example, what if our NDB, our ADF, goes out? What if that equipment fails once we crossed the final approach fix here? Then we don't have any way to tell whether we are crossing over El Monte. And if we would still have DME, and we have a DME reading over here, then we would know. Well, obviously we can just add up, that's something that we can do, but it's weird that they don't put it here. If we add up 5.9 nautical miles to 6.3, then that would be the same thing, right? So, but I don't quite know why they didn't put that number already in this plate. So that's a bit weird to me. Also, it's called the NDB or GPS Charlie approach. So in that case, if you don't have NDB, you are not allowed to fly this instrument approach at all, and that's why you need to then I guess cancel the entire or do a declare your missed approach. If you don't have an NDB, you cannot fly this particular approach. So I guess when that happens, you just need to call it quits, I think. Matt, what add-ons are you using? If you go to UncertifiedPilot.com, that's my blog there, there is a page there that shows you all the add-ons that I'm using with links to the products, also with pictures of my cockpit and stuff, and you can see exactly what I'm using, also my computer. When did you start to learn about aviation, 6.5? Welcome. I started about aviation when I was about 7 years old, when my dad, who was already interested in aviation but didn't have his real-world flying license, saw the Flight Simulator 5.0. Let me show you. The vintage, old school, most beautiful software product box in the world, the Flight Simulator 5.0 box. This box on the shelf in the store, and he thought, hey, that's interesting. We can do flying on the computer. And I had no idea about flight simulation. I had no idea about aviation. I just thought, hey, computer game, that's cool. And so we bought this without a joystick. And we were flying with the keyboard and stuff. And then we thought, well, obviously we need to have a joystick as well. And so we bought a joystick. And then it just went on from there. I thought it was so interesting and so cool to explore and to learn about flying, and also not just looking at the airplane and thinking like, oh, this is a beautiful airplane, or oh, how fast am I going with this airplane, and how nice and how cool that is. But I really already had a sense of, obviously not the complete IFR, not really the system of flying, but the idea of how to safely and quickly and efficiently fly from one airport to the next, and to use charts and that stuff. It was so fascinating to me. So that's when I started with flight simulation. A few years later, I really wanted to become a pilot, an airline pilot. But then over the years, as my flight simulation enthusiasm grew, I was actually very, very interested, passionate about teaching my best friends to fly on Flight Simulator. So I designed curriculums, training courses, even assessments, and I invited them to get to our home and fly in our cockpit, and I gave them assignments, and so I really fell in love with teaching flight simulation, and that then inspired me to go to university college and study educational science instead. I found the teaching bit even more exciting than flight simulation. And now I'm doing my doctoral research, PhD researcher, very, very soon, and in educational science. And once I've completed that, then I'm going to see whether I can use my knowledge and my experience with educational science and educational design, instructional design and technology to teach youngsters about flying through flight simulation, but not just to know how to fly an aircraft or fly on PilotEdge, but through aviation education to learn about geography, about mathematics, about science, STEM in general, about psychology, I mean, it's such a multidisciplinary topic, flight simulation, but also aviation in general. That's what I like to do. So this year is going to be really, really exciting. Thanks, Six. Matt, how are you using the iPad on OBS? I'm using a program called Air Server. An Air Server is a very neat, very popular program that you can run on your computer, which sends out some Wi-Fi signal. I don't know what it's actually doing, and it pops up as a AirPlay option on your iPad, and you can connect, and then your iPad is just sending display information, display pixels to your computer, and you can show them here as an additional program, as a window here on my screen, which works really, really well. And also I totally fell in love with ForeFlight, and that's the app that I'm using here, because it has all the information, also real world pilot application. So it's also good to get familiar with ForeFlight, especially for IFR flying, and a scratch pad and stuff. So it's also very, very practical to communicate to you guys what I'm looking at in terms of charts, rather than using SkyVector and all of that stuff. So that's what I'm using here for 2 years or so. So that's really, really, really neat. Yeah. 10 raiders from Giant Unicorn have joined. That's cool. Thank you, Giant Unicorn. Thanks for the host. Appreciate it. 6. So you have been learning from the age of 7 and are still learning new things. At what age did you have your first flight? That was when I was 10. So my father really instilled or nurtured this interest in aviation, and he thought, well, we should go now into a real world 172 and fly. So to transfer those skills. And at that time I was so small that I couldn't even look over the glare sheet, over the dashboard. So we had all kinds of cushions and stuff and bags just to get my head up high enough so I can just look at the outside view. And so it was pretty funny, because I was flying with an instructor at that time, not really proper flight lessons, but more introductory flight lessons, cross-country flights around the Netherlands. It was really, really cool. And he allowed me to fly everything. And because I was also quite interested in instrument flying already at that age, I was just interested in instruments and all of that fancy astronaut kind of stuff. I felt like an astronaut while I was flying. I was already pretty good in instrument flying, and I was forced to fly on instruments because I couldn't look outside. So the guy was saying, look at the horizon and keep the wings clear, and I was just looking at my primaries, doing my scan and stuff, until in a few hours, even a few flights later, the guy said, hey, this is VFR flying. You shouldn't look at your instruments. Yeah, but I couldn't. And even, funny enough, when I was starting this channel 3 years ago or so, when I needed to set my viewpoint for my Skyhawk, I actually set it far too low. If you look at my very first episode in the 182, I set my viewpoint around here or so because I thought that still I had trouble just looking over the dashboard, which was really, really funny. And now when I sit in the 172, my head is almost hitting the ceiling here. Yeah, but those were really good memories. And honestly, also as part of the Uncertified Pilot here, what I also really, really like is, aside from just flying and learning how to fly like an IFR pilot, obviously I just love flying, right? VFR flying, IFR, and especially PilotEdge enabling us just to fly online and doing this properly with ratings, and it's really, really cool. What I also really dig is, again, the educational science surrounding or supporting learning how to fly. So if you look at Uncertified Pilot, ridiculous effort went into designing, considering my own training program. And I've not just copy-pasted the usual training programs there, but I really looked at the deconstructing the skills that you need to fly, also in relation to PilotEdge, and say, okay, what is a logical way of doing things? And I like a really incremental way of that's my style. So I really had a lot of fun to decompose well, the skill of flying and turn that into a training program. So if you hop over to UncertifiedPilot.com, you can see all of my training flights and all the information and stuff that I did to get where I am right now. And I still need to finish my IFR training here on PilotEdge, so I still have some flights to do. But that's also a parallel interest to just flying. So I've also been considering doing streams where I teach others to fly, not because I think that I'm such an expert, but because I just love to do so. So shared cockpit flying and stuff, but it's technically a bit difficult. I tried with Digital Aviator to do shared flights, and I wasn't that perfect just yet. I don't know why X-Plane doesn't provide a integral build feature where we can just do shared cockpit flight. That still amazes me. Yeah. Matt, say again, sorry, the iPod Wi-Fi thingy, that's Air Server. Air Server, that's the app that you need. Kinger, welcome, by the way. Does X-Plane do a good job in teaching the basic of flying, tutorials and such? Well, it has a basic flight school tutorials, and it's okay. It depends on what skill level you are right now. So if you're just looking into familiarizing yourself with flying, then obviously you can just start X-Plane and get going. In my case, I was really passionate about getting as close to a real-world instrument rating and flight simulator as I possibly could. And so my learning resource was YouTube, and my tool was X-Plane. So I didn't use the contents in X-Plane to do my flight training. I was just following the same kind of training exercise that real-world pilots do for their VFR and IFR training, which excites me a bit more. Also, one of the most interesting assignments that I gave myself, actually, which I would recommend anyone getting into flying, is to design your own checklist. And you can copy paste as much as you like, but the checklist should be a student checklist. So every little item, everything that you need to do should be on there. So it's ridiculous. I think do I still have my checklist here? I should have. I think I tucked it away somewhere. It's a 600 item checklist, and it's not just for the sake of just using that checklist. Not every item should be on there, but for the sake of training, just designing and thinking about what checks should be on the checklist, and also in what order and why they are there. Just to really understand why you are doing those checks is such a fun way. Was such a fun way for me to get really, really familiar with with the Skyhawk? And why do we need to lean the mixture while we are flying? Why do we need to do that then and not a while back? And what do we need to do with pre-flight testing? And it was a really great exercise. And that's again one example of enriching or expanding your flight simulator practice, your hobby, with stuff that is not necessarily directly related to just flying. Right? So I was just sitting on the couch looking at all kinds of YouTube movies about real-world pilots, critically thinking, seeing subtle differences between how some pilots do things and other pilots do things. Then I went into the books to study what is the proper procedure. There should be one answer. And that was really, really fun. It took me 5 months to create my own a Skyhawk checklist. It's available for free, by the way, again on the UncertifiedPilot.com. It's a free download for the 808-172, for the 808-182, and also for the Airflow Labs, and also here for the rep. It's all the same Skyhawk, obviously, so it's not that much of work. But it's a really elaborate student checklist, and just making the thing was really, really educational. Dad, good to see you again. Hope you enjoyed that time on the beach. My gosh, that's my dad. He's on holiday with my mom. Seems a real thorough educator, really loves understanding. That's kind, thanks. Yeah. So yeah, that's a short review of why I am so interested in flying. It's yeah, there's very interesting stuff ahead. And also next to my flying, and I'm going to stop and hit the couch. Next to just flying on X-Plane, what I also really, really like, and I actually dedicated a new series on, is that X-Plane also gives us PlaneMaker. So aside from flying, we could also learn how to build an aircraft and to do proper flight testing, to be a test pilot. How do you test whether an airplane flies good or not? Is really subtle work, and so that inspired me to make my own Skyhawk for X-Plane as well. That I started at the beginning of this year, I think, and now I've completed making my own flight model for the 172. It's better than the default 172. It's better than the Airflow Labs in terms of behavior, according to all the tables and stuff. So I'm really, really proud on that. But it's just the PlaneMaker module. And now I'd really like to learn how to do proper, high-quality, highly animated cockpits and 3D modeling according to the features and stuff that I would like to see as a pilot. I mean, I do like the Reality Extension Pack, obviously, and there's so much programming going in there that I think I will never understand or can implement myself. But in terms of animations, I love animations, and there's so few in the 172, and there are also a few that are quite interesting and relevant. The Airflow Labs does a lot more with those animations, but I like to make my own as well. I have so many more ideas that we can incorporate. I also partnered with the SimCoders, so I'm inviting those guys, I guess, by the end of this year to then put their magic, Reality Extension Pack magic into my Skyhawk, and we can offer that through the X-Plane org as well. For free, that's my intention. It must be freeware, so I don't know what SimCoder is going to do. Perhaps they're just going to offer their Reality Extension Pack as a separate thing. That's all stuff that I don't really care about. The only thing I care about is just learning and fueling our enthusiasm for flying. So again, creating your own aircraft and learning about the physics of an aircraft and all that stuff is a separate topic that also really is fun. Is part of flight simulation practice, at least in my mind. And I think youngsters will be interested in that stuff as well. But they don't know that it exists, I think. Anyways, guys, a long talk here. We completed the NDB approach. I'm really, really proud on that. Again, I will emphasize here again, staying ahead of the game. That's the mantra of IFR flying, especially with non-precision approaches where I need to do the step downs myself. I need to look at the chart and chat with ATC and handle the airplane at the same time. So I really need to work on a routine, a flow, not only to fly the airplane, but also to do those checks, to brief my approach. I will review this video tonight, especially to see that moment before I reach Pomona Vortex and enter the approach, the actual approach, what I did and what I did not do. because I think I was a little bit overwhelmed by the stuff that I suddenly needed to do, and that's why I broke through those altitudes, I think. So that's stuff that I need to focus on in my next streams. What I'm going to do is just one more practice approach, perhaps tomorrow or the day after this week. RNAV approaches, which is going to be pretty basic, just vertical guidance and lateral guidance. I'm already familiar with ILS flying, so that's going to be pretty basic, but I'd like to check that off my on my list as well. And then finally, full complete IFR flights. Need to get my first IFR clearance ever here on PilotEdge in the flight sim. I cannot wait to do that. Full en route flying. That's going to be really, really exciting. So that's very, very close. I think perhaps even this week or next week. So if you're interested in what I'm doing here and like to learn about flying as well, hit that follow button, follow me along, jump aboard as soon as I'm flying. Yeah, guys, I really appreciate your follows and your encouragements and also your shares with teaching me to become a better pilot. You can see what that does already. I hope at least you can see. Flight Gear 6.5 Steeler. Hey guys, thank you, Dad. Yeah, I will, and hope you're doing well there. I really, really enjoy your time there. Thank you guys for all the follows and encouragements. As always, I really appreciate your presence here on the stream. And happy flights and blue skies. Bye.
Palm Springs Tower, Skyline Hotel Tango. Your mic is 10 miles north of the airport at 3000. The information is right for a full stop. And landing 13 left if that's available.
Hotel Tango, India Mike, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Hotel Tango, India Mike, Palm Springs altimeter is 2985, radar contact about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, so requesting straight in for 13.
That's available.
Correction, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, make straight in runway 13 left and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land, runway 3 left, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, thanks.
Palm Springs clearance plus 4658 is type PC12 slam call request clearance to Vegas as filed.
Call is 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon, unable to give you as filed, I'll be forward down. Call is 4658 is cleared to the Las Vegas airport. VFI Cathedral 1 departure procedure to Palm Springs. Victor 370 to 29 Palms. Victor 538. Cresso. Join the Cresso 3 arrival. Maintain 7000. Expect flight level 2, 405 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 126.7, squawk 6316.
Palm Springs Victor 37029, Palms Victor 538, Presso 3, initially climb 7000, expected cruiser 5, departure 167, squawk 6316 plus 465.
Pause 4658, readback is correct. Tango to Mike, taxi to ramp via echo, remain this frequency.
Taxiing to the ramp via echo, remaining on this frequency, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike.
Ontario Tower, Cessna 237 Charlie Alpha, approximately 4 miles to the west, inbound to land.
Number 237 Charlie Alpha, roger, inner left, traffic, left downwind, runway 26, left report base.
Enter left downwind 26, left report your base, 237 Charlie Alpha.
Charlie Tower, United 242, on the visual for 20 right, returning for right base shortly.
United 242 Jolly Tower, runway 20 right, clear to land, wind 170, echo 3.
Clear to land, 20 right, United.
Air 520 Kilo Palomar Tower, runway 24, clear to land, wind 210 at 11. Number 237 Charlie Alpha, runway 26 left, clear to land.
Left clear to land, 7 Charlie Alpha.
Palm Springs Route plus 4658 is trying to move to weather, going for taxi.
Pause 4658,